Level 1. The Associate. You're 16 years old. You're standing outside a social club on a street where everyone knows your father's name, and nobody says it out loud. A man inside sends someone out with an envelope and an address. He doesn't ask your name. He already knows it. You take the envelope. That's the whole ceremony. There isn't another one. You walk it 4 blocks and hand it to a man in the back of a restaurant that isn't open yet. He doesn't count it in front of you. He gives you 2 20s and a 10. $50 for 18 minutes of walking. Your mother works a double shift in a hospital laundry for less than that. You go back the next week. You go back the week after that. You are an associate now. That word will follow you for the next 15 years, and you have no idea how much it weighs. An associate is not a member of anything. An associate is a man who is useful. You can be around, you can earn, you can be trusted with an address and a name, and none of it makes you one of them. There is no card. There is no ceremony. There is a man who vouches for you, and there is the empty space where a man who vouches for you used to be. And the distance between those two things is your entire life. You learn the rules by breaking the small ones. You learn which words don't get said on a telephone. You learn which words don't get said in a car. You learn that the club has a back room, and that you don't walk into the back room, and nobody ever tells you that. You just notice where other people's feet stop. You learn the geography. Which corner belongs to which crew? Which club is the real one, and which one is where old men play cards for quarters? Which bar you can drink in and which bar you walk past on the other side of the street? You're 17 and you have a job stocking shelves at a supermarket. The job exists so that you have somewhere to say you work. You show up twice a week. Your manager knows better than to write you up. Your mother finds the money in a coffee can on your shelf. She doesn't say anything. She takes $60 for the electric and puts the rest back exactly where it was. That's the last conversation you two ever have about it, and it happens without either of you speaking. Then one night at a card game, someone says something sideways that you aren't supposed to hear. There is a book, not an actual book, a list. Your name is not on it. If your name ever goes on it, you become something that cannot be undone and cannot be resigned from. Nobody explains it to you. Nobody offers it to you. You do the arithmetic later, lying in the dark. Fewer than 1,000 names on that list in the entire city. 10,000 men outside it, walking envelopes across 4 blocks for $50. You take the next envelope anyway. Level 2, the earner. You're 20. You have a beeper, a car that runs, and a book. Not that book, a different one. You're taking sports action now, mostly football, mostly from men who work construction and men who work in the courthouse. You started with 11 customers. You have 64. You know every one of them by a nickname and a number, and you never write a full name down anywhere. The economics are simple, and they are not gambling. The bettors gamble. You don't. You take action on both sides, and you live on the vig, the 10% the loser pays on top. Balance the book, and the outcome of the game stops mattering to you entirely. You watch games with no feeling in either direction. Your friends can't understand how you do that. You learn the second business at the same time. A man loses more than he has. He can't pay Tuesday. So you put him on the street, 6 for 5, 120 back on every 100, due weekly, and the principal doesn't move until he clears the interest. Some of them pay it off in a month. Some of them pay you every week for 2 years and never touch what they actually owe. Some of them stop answering the phone, and then a conversation happens that isn't yours to have, and the money shows up on Thursday. You never have that conversation yourself. Not yet. You're the one who reports that it needs to happen. That distinction matters to you now. It won't for much longer. You move swag out of the back of a warehouse on the water. Televisions, cases of liquor, 400 pairs of running shoes that came off a truck that was never robbed according to anyone's paperwork. You're clearing $3,000 a week, some weeks 4. You are 21 years old and you're making more than your mother and your 2 uncles combined. And you are handing a piece of every dollar up the block to a man you see maybe twice a month. That piece is not a fee. You need to understand what it is. You're renting permission. You are permitted to operate on this street, and the rent is paid upward, forever, and the amount is whatever he says it is that month. You buy your mother a washing machine. She uses it. She doesn't thank you for it. You're building something, and none of it is yours. Level 3, the connected guy. You're 25. You're with somebody now. That's the phrase. You're with a soldier named in the crew that runs your part of the neighborhood. He's 44, he's been made for 9 years, and you are officially on record with him. It's not a contract. Nothing is written. But every man on the street now understands that a problem with you is a problem with him. And that changes how people talk to you in a way you can feel in your chest the first week. The protection is real. Somebody clips one of your betters for $11,000 and disappears to Florida. You mention it once. The money is on a table in your kitchen within 11 days and you never learn how. The price is also real. You're kicking up 30–40% now. Sometimes more if it's a heavy month for him. And you don't get to ask what makes a month heavy. You bring the envelope on the same day every week to the same table in the same club. You never hand it to him directly. You put it down and he doesn't look at it. You're running your own associates now. 3 kids from the avenue, one of them 16 with a beeper and a car that barely runs. You send him with envelopes. You give him $50 for 18 minutes of walking. You don't think about the symmetry of that even once. You clear $8,000 a week. You keep about 5. And you start hearing something in the way people address you. A shift in the grammar. He's a good kid. He earns. He's got his head down. Those sentences are being said in rooms you aren't in. And they're being said by men whose opinion is the only currency that matters here. Then your soldier tells you to be at a diner at 9 a.m. And it's the first time in 9 years he's given you a time in the morning. He tells you that your name has been put up. He explains what that means in about 40 seconds. Flatly. Like a man reading a delivery schedule. Your name goes on a list. The list circulates through the other families. Anybody with a grievance against you has an opportunity to raise it. If nobody objects, you wait. If somebody objects, you don't get told who and you don't get told why. You just wait forever. You wait 2 years. During those 2 years, you say nothing to anyone, including your mother, including the woman you're going to marry. Nobody tells you this part. The waiting is the test. They're watching whether the news changes you. Level 4. The made man. You're 31. They pick you up on a Tuesday afternoon with no notice. 2 men you know, 1 man you don't. Nobody says where you're going. You already know, and you say nothing the entire drive. Because saying something is one of the ways men fail this. It's a basement of a house in a residential neighborhood where children are outside on bicycles. There are 14 men in the room. You recognize 5. The oldest man there is 78 and hasn't spoken above in a decade because of what a doctor found in his throat. The ceremony takes under 4 minutes. You're asked if you know why you're there. There's a gun on the table and there's a knife on the table. And both of them are for what they represent, not for what they do. Your trigger finger is pricked. A card with the image of a saint on it burns in your cupped hands, and you pass it back and forth while the blood is still on you. You swear to a rule with no exceptions. This thing comes before your wife, before your mother, before your children, including the ones you don't have yet. You're told there is one way out, and everyone in the room knows what it is, and nobody says it out loud. Then it's over, and men are shaking your hand, and someone is about parking. You go upstairs, and the children are still on their bicycles. You are a made man, a soldier. Your name is on the books. Here is what changes. You can now sit at certain tables. Nobody can touch you without permission from the top of your family. And getting that permission requires a reason and a vote. You are, for the first time in your life, standing inside the ratio instead of outside it. Here is what doesn't change. You still kick up. You still take orders. You are the lowest rank of a thing you spent 15 years trying to enter. And you are 31 years old and starting at the bottom again. You drive home. Your wife has made dinner. She asks how your day was. You say it was fine. You look at her across the table and you understand, with total clarity and no drama at all, that you took an oath 4 hours ago that puts her second, and that you will never be able to tell her that you did it. Level 5. The soldier. You're 37. You've been straightened out for 6 years. You have your own crew inside the crew. 9 associates. 2 of them are earners, and the rest are useful. You've got the sports book, 4 card games rotating between 3 locations, a piece of a union local through a business agent who owes a debt he'll never finish paying, a construction outfit that bids on jobs and sometimes even does them, and a check-cashing place on the avenue that exists mostly so money can walk in dirty and walk out clean. You've learned the third business, which is the one that actually keeps everything alive. Cash has to become something else. It becomes a restaurant that loses money on paper and turns a profit that nobody can trace. It becomes a vending machine route. It becomes $11,000 of construction invoices for work on a building that got its roof done twice. The drugs and the gambling are the easy part. Making the money look like it came from somewhere is the skill. And men go to prison for 30 years for failing at it, long after they've stopped failing at anything else. You clear 25 to 40,000 a week. Roughly half goes up. You have 2 cars and you drive the older one. You wear nothing on your wrists. You do not talk in your own kitchen because your own kitchen is not yours. There's a phrase for men who spend money where people can see it, and the phrase is, he's a defendant. And somewhere in these 6 years, there was a night that you don't revisit. You were told. You didn't ask a question because asking a question is itself an answer about who you are. It got done. It was never spoken of again by anyone, including you, including in your own head, where you've built a room for it with the door closed. You go to your daughter's first communion 2 weeks later. She's 7. She's got a white dress and she's furious about the shoes. You take a photograph of her on the church steps and you are, in that moment, completely happy. And you notice that you are, and you don't examine it. That's the arrangement. There are 2 men and they use the same body and they never meet. Your mother dies that winter. You carry the casket with your brother and 2 cousins. At the reception, 4 men you work with come by the house, kiss you, stay 6 minutes, and leave. Not one of them is at the funeral of any man in your crew who dies later. That's not coldness. That's a photograph the government would have paid for. Level 6. The Capo. You're 43. Your skipper died of an aneurysm in a car outside a bakery, and the seat opened, and the boss gave it to you. You run a crew now. 16 made men, and somewhere between 50 and 80 associates, depending on what you count, spread across 4 neighborhoods and 2 industries. You are the highest rank most men in this life will ever see in person. The job is not what you thought it was for 27 years. The job is management. You settle disputes. 2 of your soldiers are both claiming a piece of the same vending operation, and you sit them down in a back room, and you decide. And the one who loses has to accept it in front of the other one. And if he can't do that in front of the other one, you have a much larger problem than a vending route. You handle personnel. A soldier of yours is using. That's not a moral issue to you. It's structural. A man with a habit needs money on a schedule that isn't yours. And a man who needs money on a schedule isn't reliable in an interview room. You handle it. Sometimes handling it means rehab paid for by the crew. Sometimes it means a demotion nobody announces. You handle arrests. Every time one of yours gets picked up, you have to know within an hour. What does he have? What does he face? Who does he love? And does he have a lawyer, or does he have your lawyer? Those are different lawyers, and the difference is the entire operation. You have never been more careful in your life. 3 phones, replaced monthly. You take meetings walking. You don't say a name on a street you've walked more than twice. Your crew moves somewhere near 200,000 a week. You're keeping around 40. You've got a house with a pool your wife wanted, in a town where nobody knows anything. And you drive a 4-year-old sedan to a construction office where you sign real documents and pay real taxes. Your daughter is 13. She tells her friends her father is in construction. That's what she's been told. That's what she believes. She's proud of you in the specific, uncomplicated way that a 13-year-old is proud of a father who comes home every night. You are 1 witness away from 30 years. You go to work every day inside a building you already know is on fire. Level 7. The Consigliere. You're 49. The boss calls you in and offers you a seat in the administration. The Consigliere is not a promotion in the way that word normally works. You don't get a bigger crew. You give yours up. You are the 3rd seat of 3, and your function is to be the man who is not invested in the outcome. You are the advisor. You are also, and mostly, the judge. When 2 capos are in conflict, and it's serious enough to reach the top, it comes to you first, and you hear both sides, and you find the answer that keeps 2 crews earning instead of 2 crews at war. War is expensive. War is loud. Loud is how families end. You're the one who explains to a 34-year-old soldier that the thing he thinks he was promised was never promised. You're the one who tells a capo of 20 years that his numbers are down and he's going to lose 2 of his soldiers to another crew. And you tell him in a way that lets him keep his standing in the room. You sit on the proposals. You look at a list of names of young men who want in, and you say yes, or you say nothing. And the ones you say nothing about never learn why, and they wait for the rest of their lives. 26 years ago, your name was on a list like that, and a man in a room like this one said yes about you. You don't earn on the street anymore. Your income is a percentage of the whole thing, arriving in envelopes you don't count, somewhere between 1 and 2 million a year. You couldn't tell a federal accountant where a dollar of it came from, and neither could he, which is the point. You've stopped sleeping properly. Not from guilt. You dealt with guilt in your 30s, in that room with the door closed. It's the arithmetic. Every night you run the same calculation. Who is currently sitting in a federal building? What do they know? How many people are between that knowledge and your name? And is one of those people weaker than he was last month? You run that math in the car, in church, at your daughter's college graduation, in the 4th row, while she walks across the stage. Level 8, the underboss. You're 54. The underboss went away for 22 years, and the boss moved you into the seat. You're second now. You run the day. Every capo reports to you, and you report to one man. And there is nobody else in the entire structure who can say that sentence. Everything operational is yours. Which crew gets which territory? Which industries the family is in and which it's exiting? Which disputes reach the boss and which ones die on your desk? Because a boss who hears everything is a boss who can be charged with everything. That's your actual function. Your insulation. The distance between the boss and the street is measured in you. You go on record at the highest level. You sit with the administrations of the other families. 4 men in a restaurant in a neighborhood chosen because nobody there speaks to police. Territory. Dead soldiers. Unauthorized earning. A construction bid that 3 families all want and no family can afford a war over. Nobody raises their voice. The whole thing has the atmosphere of a zoning board, and every man at that table knows what happens if the meeting fails. You are also, at 54, the most surveilled human being you have ever met. There's a car on your street some mornings. There's a van that parks near your office. Your lawyer tells you there are 3 federal agencies with active files, and one of them has had a file open since you were 31 years old and had blood on your finger in a basement. Your income is somewhere near 3 million a year. You cannot access most of it directly. It sits in a construction company, a restaurant group, 2 apartment buildings, and a marina, all of them held by people whose last name is not yours. Your son is 24. He has a business degree. He works in real estate, and he is completely legitimate, and he has never once been asked to carry anything anywhere. Because you built the entire machine so that he would never have to. He calls you every Sunday. He has no idea who you are. And you built that too. And it is the single greatest thing you've ever done. And you can't tell anyone that either. Level 9, the boss. You're 59. The old man died in a bed at 81, which almost nobody does. And the vote went the way it was always going to go. You're the boss. Nobody uses that word. Nobody uses your name on a phone. You are referred to by a gesture, a touch to the ear, a hand tilted flat, because a gesture doesn't come back on a wiretap. You give almost no orders. Orders travel through your underboss, who translates intention into instruction, and your capos execute an instruction that cannot be traced to a sentence you said. You have not personally told anyone to do anything in 4 years. That is not caution. That is architecture. And you spent 30 years learning to build it by watching men who didn't. You decide the things that only you decide. Whether the books open, whether a man dies, whether the family enters an industry that will make $40 million and put 9 men in a federal courtroom. You control something like 600 people. Your family's annual revenue, if any honest person could count it, sits in the hundreds of millions. You live in a house you've owned for 22 years. You drive to a social club. You drink espresso. You walk around a block with one other man. You go home. You have not been on a vacation since 1998. You wear a windbreaker. The most powerful men in this life look like retired plumbers. That is entirely the point. And you know precisely how this ends, because you have watched every man who held this seat before you. There are 2 exits. One of them is a federal sentence that outlives you. The other one is a car door opening while you're eating. You tell yourself you'll be the exception. Every man in this chair told himself that. 2 of them were right in the last century. Your granddaughter is 4. She's in your yard, on a plastic slide, screaming with delight at nothing at all. Your son is watching her. Your daughter-in-law is on her phone. You are 59 years old, and you are the most successful man on your street, and you cannot go inside your own house and say one true sentence to anybody in it. Level 10. The number. You're 71. You have a federal registration number, and you answer to it 11 times a day. They didn't need a body or a bug in the end. They needed a capo of 19 years who was facing 30 and had a wife with a diagnosis and a son with a problem. He sat in a room and gave them 14 years of dates. It took 9 months to try, and the jury was out for a day and a half. You're at a federal medical center in a state you'd never visited. Your knees are gone. There's a machine by the bed at night. Your sentence is long enough that the number stopped meaning anything the day it was read out. Your wife visits every second month. It's a 9-hour drive, and she's 68, and she does it anyway. She sits across a table and tells you about the yard and the neighbors and a dog that died. You have 80 minutes, and you spend them talking about a dog. Your son came twice. The second time, he asked you directly, in a room with cameras, whether all of it was true. You told him the truth, because you're 71, and there was nothing left to protect him from. He hasn't come back. He writes at Christmas. The letters are kind, and they're short, and they're addressed to a number. Your granddaughter is 16 now. She has never met you. There's a photograph of her in your locker that your wife brought, and in it she's standing on a set of church steps in a white dress, furious about her shoes, and she looks so much like your daughter did at 7 that you had to put the photograph face down for a week. You had roughly $40 million. The government took what it could find. The lawyers took $11 million over 6 years, and the rest is in structures your son will not touch because he knows now what it is. Everyone from the basement is dead. The 78-year-old man who couldn't speak above a whisper died in 1994. The soldier who put you on record died in a hospice in Staten Island. And there were 9 people at the mass. You were made. You reached the top of a structure that fewer than 1,000 men in the city ever entered and fewer than 10 ever ran. You have a number, a machine by the bed, and a photograph you can't look at directly. Somewhere right now, on a street where everyone knows a family name and nobody says it out loud, a 16-year-old is standing outside a social club with his hands in his pockets, trying to look like he isn't waiting for anything. The door opens. A man comes out with an envelope and an address. He doesn't ask the kid's name. He already knows it. The kid takes it. He walks it 4 blocks. He gets $50 for 18 minutes, and it's more money than he's ever held at once. And he tells himself he'll do it once. He has no idea there's a list. He has no idea he'll spend 15 years auditioning for a page he'll never be allowed to read. He has no idea what it costs to get on it, or what it costs to stay, or who he'll have to become to be worth writing down. He'll figure it out. They always do. The cycle continues.